or we have Dagger, who's a part of one of the stunt shows, and Dagger has his own character and his own like traits and his own personality, and we encourage our team to really develop that. I mean, we had employees who were characters in shows, and the audience would get to love them before they even got to the show venue, because the characters are interacting, walking around the park, interacting with the guests. And they were in the middle of the show when that character was shot and killed in the show. They're like, no, no. And they're like booing, and they're not happy that that character is, gone now.
Where will the attractions industry go next?
Find out at IAAPA North America Summit, March 30th through April 1st, 2025 at Disney's Grand Californian Hotel.
Join executives, innovators, and thought leaders to build connections, explore trends through exclusive EDUTours, and gain strategic insights to put into action.
This summit offers a unique opportunity to learn and grow alongside the industry's best.
Don't miss the chance to shape the future of the attractions industry.
Click the link in the show notes to register today.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going fantastically, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. Excellent. Giddy up, as they say.
Yes. Question for you.
Yes.
Have you ever been to a movie studio theme park?
Have I ever been? I think I worked at one.
I think I did too.
Called Universal. So yes, I've been to a movie studio theme park.
Now, have you ever been to one in Arizona?
That I have not.
At the time of this recording.
At the time of this recording, exactly.
Yeah.
By the time it airs, I will have.
Well, then you should just say that you have. Do we speak in the moment of recording? Or do we speak at the time of airing?
I will speak at the moment of recording because any other way is too difficult to remember. Why do you ask?
Well, the reason I ask is because our guest today is Tony Sanders. He is the general manager of Old Tucson, which is a movie studio theme park, but probably not the one that most people think of when you hear movie studio theme park. So we are going all the way to Tucson, Arizona, to Old Tucson.
So we get to talk to Tony about a lot of different things. We've covered his leadership style. We talked about the Old Tucson experience. And one of the things I think was really fascinating is the way he talked about Wild West entertainment. And, you go to a lot of different theme parks and there's kind of a Wild West area, that might be there. But, from the sounds of it, and if I speak in the future, what I just saw, it seems like this is a truly authentic Wild West experience where it's not just a section of a park, it is the park.
Yeah, it is the experience. It is about what it's like going on set of a Western. And that is kind of how the park itself was founded, as being a movie studio for the movie Arizona. And then, of course, they had the brilliant idea of let's actually turn this into an attraction. So you get to experience the movie studio side of it, as well as the experience of being in the Old West or in the Wild West.
Absolutely. One of the other things he talks about is creating an immersive experience where you really interact with the sets around you, you interact with the people, the characters. You get to interact with the smells of the Old West. And one of the things that, we kind of made an observation about was that this was about immersion without technology. And so often you hear people talking about, goggles and screens and things to immerse you, and sound, and all those things are great immersive techniques. But this is truly an immersive experience kind of like what I described in Iceland, where I was immersed in ice. But this is an immersive experience in the Wild West. So super excited to hear Tony talk more about it.
I'm just thinking, imagining you as Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back, but immersed in ice. Which I know was not the case. And you had a very immersive experience in Italy as well.
Yes.
And I think between all the conversations that we've had about immersive experiences and leading into Tony's giving us the overview of what the immersive experience is like at Old Tucson, I think we can pretty much plant a flag in the claim that immersive experiences have nothing to do with technology. They can, but the concept itself does not mean that they are one and the same. And I think that hearing Tony describe the way the experience is immersive, I think really helps sell that point. Tony is also very passionate about leadership, and in fact, that is giving away maybe one of his 4 Ps of leadership that he walks us through and describes and goes into great detail on some that really, I would say, is a very strong guide rail towards his leadership philosophy and the way that he takes on that role.
All right. So should we walk through the dusty trail and get to this interview with Tony?
Let's hitch up the wagon and head out west.
Hey, Tony, welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast. How you doing today?
I am great, and I'm even better because I'm here with Matt and Josh.
Well, we appreciate that, and we're better because we're here with you. So let's start off by giving people an idea of your extensive career in the industry. Give us kind of an overview of what you've done so far.
Sure. I probably, like a lot of people, started when I was a teenager. I started when I was 15 years old working for Six Flags over Georgia. I started out, my first job was patio crew, and I literally walked from food stand to food stand cleaning patios all day long. That's just what I did. And then I was able to move into different roles at Six Flags over the years. But I mean, really, my career probably started when I was 17, 18, and I said, oh, this is what I want to do. I don't know what. I thought I would want to be a sign shop foreman for a while. I thought I would be a mechanic, which I'm glad that didn't go because, man, I'm not good at that. And I just kind of found myself in a leadership role that worked, and it really started in HR. Started as a trainer, training people. I mean, I had worked in different departments, and they were like, hey, we need someone to help us in different areas of training. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. What could it hurt, right? And then it just kept snowballing from there. So but over the years, I've worked for multiple parks over the years, different companies, but I've had different roles as well. I've been a human resources manager, an operations manager. I've been a revenue manager, and you know, I love all the roles that I've done. I think almost equally, and that experience has just been. It's to me, it's been better than going to a 4-year college. I mean, let's all the experience that you get from that, you cannot compare. And I just love the industry. So it's been in my blood. It was actually my parents too. My parents both worked at Six Flags over Georgia when they were teenagers as well. So yeah.
Nice. Tony, I'm curious if we can go back to 15-year-old Tony cleaning patios. You said your career started when you were about 17, 18, when you decided that you truly wanted to be in the industry. So I'm curious if you can connect the dots there from patio cleaner to pursue a career in the attractions and theme park industry.
Sure. I remember being that 15-year-old kid, right? And looking at my supervisors and saying, wow, these are great people and they're doing great things. And all I saw was this great interaction. I had some great supervisors over the years, and I think that's just what, hey, we're luring you in with a fishing pole, right? Like, this is what you're going to do, and you don't know it yet, but we're going to catch you and we're going to bring you into it. And just seeing that atmosphere that was created for me, I felt like that was something I wanted to do for others. And I knew I wanted to do it in this unique environment that's just unlike anything else. I mean, the roar of the roller coaster in the background as you're serving fries to someone, or the sweat dripping inside the costume as you're dancing, silly in front of the guests. who else is going to pay you to do that in a professional way? And so it just kind of stuck. And I just remember saying to my mom, I hated that you wanted me to have a job because I just wanted to have fun. But now I really love this, and I think I just want to keep doing it, and I don't know where I'll go with it. So
Yeah. So I'm curious, Tony, what did your parents do at Over Georgia?
they one worked in the park services area cleaning, and one
Okay.
was in a parking role.
Okay.
And they worked for a couple of summers, and then they were like, okay, we'll go and move on, as a lot of people do. But they never really shared a lot about their experiences. It's funny because I just went as a teenage kid and got a job. But the funny thing was, is my high school was right down the road. So almost everyone I already went to school with was working at Six Flags. So it was just this natural blend. And it's funny. They said they enjoyed it though. They had a fun time. So.
Okay. Well, and I'm curious too, like as they had some experience there, what was it like for them when you got the job there?
Um, I think my mom was very proud. My dad was proud that I got this job, because I had never wanted a job. I didn't want to work. Every year they would buy me a season pass and then just go drop me off. And I spent my whole summer just going. And then one year, instead of going to get the season pass, they forced me to go to the employment center instead. And they were proud of it. I don't think they ever thought that it would be the career, because a lot of people, unfortunately, don't see the industry as a career. And they ask the question, well, what do you do in the off season? And what do you do in this? And I don't think they saw it. My family also had a family business. So I think they all wanted me to go that direction.
Mm.
But I wasn't having it. It wasn't going to happen. So, but they were proud. They were happy that and because of the connection with all my friends, they felt safe. They knew everyone who already knew that. I mean, that was part of it. So, yeah.
So, Tony, you've been able to see the industry through the lens of multiple different operators between Six Flags and Palace and Merlin and Fun Spot and curious and more, right? And curious as far as just kind of like your overall perception of maybe kind of how all of them kind of maybe the similarities across all those of what's the through line that really connects a lot of those together, while on the surface might say, okay, there's a lot of very different operations going on, but curious as far as things you picked up along the way there.
I think the biggest thing is what each one does to not be a part of everyone else, but it ends up being a part of what everyone else is doing. Like, oh, we're going to do this really great ride, and it's a really cool ride, and it has a very cool concept, but it's very similar to something that someone else is doing. But the way that those parks, those individual companies put their twist on it is unique. And just how that works in that way. I think the other biggest thing is that the difference in the engagement side, the employee experience side, the guest experience side. I mean, I'm talking to the two gurus here of both guest and employee experience, but I see that those companies all look at it in a similar fashion of what needs to be done, but how they approach it and how they execute it is all different. So definitely, and then the difference between a family-owned park and a corporate, controlled and operated park. It's just sometimes worlds of difference there. So,
And I would imagine all of that now you get to kind of tap into in your current role, which is the GM at Old Tucson in Tucson, Arizona. So, can you tell us a little bit about what that's been like?
this has been the most unique experience I would say that I've ever had. I mean, working at amusement parks or attractions, they're all unique, but you always kind of have that similar experience with this ride or this attraction, and in the way that they operate and the way you do things. Here is we've got to do all that, but we're doing it on dirt streets with no concrete and no asphalt. And we're doing it with cows in the background and chickens. And we're doing it with people shooting guns at each other and in a stunt entertainment way. So this is unique in how we approach how you operate in an attraction. And then to top that off, our demos switch every season or every period of operation. Our demos totally switch. So we might have an older demo for this experience, but then we go to Halloween, and then obviously we're shooting at a teen and younger adult experience, and then we go right into Christmas, and that demo shifts again. And we're doing all that at a property that is not like any other. And then to add on top, we're a movie studio. I mean, we have active movie production here. So you top all that with the movie production side, and then you throw in your group and private events over here, and you've got a concert thing over here. So it's really unique. And the city of Tucson has such a fond memory and place in its heart for this attraction. So living up to the expectations of the city of Tucson, the people in Tucson, it's honestly very hard sometimes. Like we've got to be new and old Tucson. We've got to figure out what that means. And I think we're working through it, but this property is unlike those others in a lot of those aspects. Now, some of it's the same, right? You got to serve good food. You got to serve it hot, fresh, fast. You got to serve, your retail team's got to be there. We have a games department. We got to get those games and get, interaction with the guests. But then we turn the dial up when it comes to the performers and the street atmosphere and the atmosphere that we create. I mean, we'll teach you how to play Pharaoh in our saloon when you come. So if you don't know how to play Pharaoh, we got you. We'll take care of you. Although your mom may not want you to learn how to play Pharaoh, but that's part of our experience. So it's such a unique place.
Tony, can we walk us through maybe a little bit more of what the experience is like of visiting Old Tucson and coming into, a movie studio that is an attraction as well? We know that there are a few of those around the country, around the world, if you will, but particularly the unique experience in Old Tucson.
Sure. Well, as I said, like when you come into the park, you take a step out of your car and you go across that asphalt parking lot, which there's asphalt in the parking lot. But as soon as you go through that ticket booth, you're in a different world. You're in a true Wild West, Old West experience. We immerse you into that environment. Now, there's some elements that are a little bit updated, and we have some rides that focus on kids and family, but truly, we call ourselves a Wild West entertainment park because most of the attractions that you will see or you will experience is in live entertainment based. So you're going to see that gunfight in the street, right? And then you're going to go into the Grand Palace Saloon and you're going to see that a live, vibrant can show. And then you're going to go over and you're going to visit that saloon and you're going to sit down with a dealer who's going to teach you how to play Pharaoh. And then you might walk outside and we've got some crooners who are singing you and serenading you from a small stage, and then all of a sudden right in front of you, there's going to be a horse-drawn wagon that's going to run right in front of you. And it's going to be carrying guests up to different parts of the park that you can experience. You can get on and ride. So the experience is what I think, and maybe it's weird to say, I think about the 50s and the 60s and the way the amusement park industry was. And maybe that doesn't sound good for what we are. We're not an amusement park from the 50s and 60s, but aspects of what we do remind me of things that I've seen in the past. So we're truly living that history of the way that not only the Wild West is, but the way the history of amusement parks were. So I mean, this property started in 1939, essentially, as a movie studio set that was built for the movie Arizona. And then a few decades later, someone said, well, this is still a movie studio. Let's keep making movies here. And now let's throw in the atmosphere of an amusement park, because that was the golden eras, right, of the parks we think of as Disney and, Knott's Berry Farm and some of those. And I'm sure a lot of those had influences on the original startup here, but it's so unique. It's just a different experience. It's really How immersive can we make you feel? We have a cast of characters. We have, horse-drawn wagons. We got some big old cows that we just walk down the street, and it can go up and feed in a corral. So it's just a different way to approach the amusement side of it. But the experience is immersive, and that's what we try to make it.
I'm really glad you mentioned the word immersive, because Josh and I have had many conversations about what an immersive experience is. And you hear a lot about immersion being tied to some sort of electronic technology, whether they're glasses or screens and things like that. But you just said immersion and cows, I think, in the same sentence. So I'm curious, like from maybe a design standpoint, designing the experience, how do you get people immersed in the kind of the ways of the Wild West? Or is it that you just created the environment of the Wild West and you're inviting people in, if that makes sense? Like, I hate to say, are you putting the cart before the horse? But that's kind of what I'm asking, like, which one comes first?
I think the cart is before the horse because just the property the way it is. We're the gatekeepers who get to design that within that realm, right? So we look back to history. We even, some of our shows might throw a tagline or two of something fun and pop culture now, and it just mixes in. But we are the designers. We get to say, we're going to design this experience for this cast member. So last year, a lot of people know Calamity Jane, the name Calamity Jane, right? A person who actually lived in history and had a bit of a history of drinking. Well, last year we had a Calamity Jane character who was, essentially drunk most of the not. No, she wasn't really drunk, right? But she played this character well, and she was roaming the streets with her bottle in her hand and just, having fun. And if we didn't design that as a part of the immersive experience, because that's who that character was, or I shouldn't even say character, that was a real person, right? That was someone who lived, and we had to design our character to be that immersive too. And now we do the same thing. We might come up with different characters here or there, like Big Jake is our Big Jake mascot. We have someone walking around who's Big Jake, or we have you know Dagger, who's a part of one of the stunt shows, and Dagger has his own character and his own like traits and his own personality, and we encourage our team to really develop that. I mean, we had employees who were characters in shows, and the audience would get to love them before they even got to the show venue, because the characters are interacting, walking around the park, interacting with the guests. And they were in the middle of the show when that character was shot and killed in the show. They're like, no, no. And they're like booing, and they're not happy that that character is, gone now. So it's just how we design the team to interact, and the experience that the guests will get out of those interactions is a huge part of it. I mean, in the immersive side, look, we have a thing called road apples here. That's where the animals who walk leave a little something on the road as they walk by. That's immersive. You're going to smell it. You're going to see it. It is like, nothing like you can see at most amusement parks, right? Like you're not going to see those road apples on the ground. So yeah, it's all about the experience that we can design. But unfortunately, I mean, like you were saying, the cart is before the horse. So we kind of have to live within this realm, right? I mean, we have to. Our kids area is a little different. It's focused more with some updated rides and different things, but the bulk of the park we leave in Old West mode, because when they come to film, it's got to be as authentic as possible to the films. So we kind of say, no, we're not touching that. We hide the speakers, we hide the things, so they can't see those. But it's live within this boundary, but make the things we do in the boundary as immersive as possible. So
That's really interesting. Thank you for walking us through that. And my takeaway from that is that the definition of immersive, particularly in this context, is one about engaging the senses, and I think the road apples play a big role in that, but also engaging the emotional aspect of it as well. And the point you made of the characters who are roaming, they start out as streetmosphere essentially, that then blend into the stage theater entertainment, almost creates this what's the term, suspense of disbelief or suspended reality, where, like you said, now when the audience sees the fictional character shot and killed, that they have a genuine emotional reaction
Yeah.
to it. And I think that's the immersion, right? That is the suspended reality and suspended disbelief, if you will. So I think that's really interesting.
And we challenge them. We like, make these connections so authentic and real, and make it feel so that their emotions come out when you're out there and they're having fun, or they're laughing, or they're sad you're not around, or whatever. And we really put that to our performers. So
I do want to touch on one thing you mentioned a little bit ago as well, and that's you talked about the connection to the city of Tucson and the requirement of being new but also old. And so I think my question kind of merges really those two together, is really serving the community, really delivering the experience that Old Tucson has become very well known for, and that the community has truly embraced. So blending that, there's the nostalgia aspect of it, of both the experience at the venue as well as what the venue represents as well. So it's kind of a twofold, I would say. But like you said, at the same time, really making it very modern, making it very relevant to today's consumer as well.
yeah, it's been a challenge. The first thing I learned when I got here is that everyone tells me, "Oh, we love Old Tucson. It's so great." Oh, great. When were you there last? 20 years ago. So their memories all come from those experiences. But now we may not have all the same things that they had then. So what is the supplement that we can do? What is the the change that will still help them feel that nostalgic? We're putting in a new series of antique autos, as we call them, antique cars, A cars, as the industry might call them. Ours are a little bit updated now. They're electronic, which I kind of miss the whole, sound and smell that comes from that. It's one of the first rides I ever worked on. But it's we have to find a way to operate at a better cost and efficiency, right? But how do we still create this feel? And it's probably a question I've gotten 100. When are you guys bringing back those antique cars? When you bringing them back? Well, we are. Hopefully, you like the new version of them. I think being such a great memory for this local. I mean, any park across the country that has a local, Kennywood is a great example, right? It's in a city that just loves its city and it loves its region, right? And that is what we found here, is that we have to live up to that, and we can't do it because we don't have all the elements they used to have. So we're trying to pace ourselves to say, what are those elements that will do that? So we brought in the antique autos, but we also brought in an SBF Visa ride. That's the pony adventure ride that we're calling Pony Express, and kids can ride horses. So now we're creating something totally new. Now, back in the day, they used to ride real horses. Is it cost effective to have real horses for kids to ride? And does insurance cover that as easily now as it used to? Probably not. But we got to find a way to blend that, right? So we've got the SBF ride, it's going in. They're going to be able to ride these horses. So how do we do that? And it's a good question, Josh, because man, it's a challenge every single day for us. What do we do if we make that show, but someone remembers that exact show from 20 years ago and the way it was then? How do we still get them to be interested? The good part is we are hearing great responses from all the guests, and so we're living up to those expectations from 20 years ago. So yeah.
That's awesome, Tony. And I know you and I have talked about it. I'm going to get to visit you very soon, so I get to see
Yes.
all those
Yeah.
things in person.
Yeah.
But I want to switch gears just a little bit because you and I have known each other for quite a while, and we've had many conversations about leadership. And on LinkedIn, you call yourself a passionate and engaged leader. And I don't know who else I could put that, your face next to that, in the dictionary. I think that would absolutely work. But I'm curious, can you kind of talk us a little bit through your leadership philosophy and kind of how you approach leading teams?
Sure. I've always said that I don't know that I take the you hold up a book and it's called The Servant Leader. I don't read that book and take that, but I call myself a servant leader in that I'm here to serve my team. I'm here to serve their needs, their expectations, their concerns. So my goal is to be a servant leader to them and help them. And that's not just my manager team or my supervisor team. That's everyone. That's from the frontline staff, or that person's first day. I'm hopefully meeting them and getting to know them. But I really take a I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you succeed. And I kind of do that through what I call my 4P philosophy that I've always kind of looked at, or 4Ps for leadership. And it's first of all, being a professional, someone who is professional to all aspects, not just the way I talk to my team, but the way I treat my team, the way that I treat vendors, the way that I interact with our guests. It's very professional. I would say the second P has always really been I'm very proactive, or I try to be. I'm not perfect, right? But I want to be proactive, and I want to teach my team to be proactive. That is one of the biggest things. The last two are ones that I love to have. I hopefully live up to it all the time. And that is being someone who is very positive when it comes to the park. I've had my negative times, sure. I know it. But being positive about what we're doing and who we are and what our experience is for our guests. And then the last one is probably the biggest one, is just having a passion or being passionate about what I do. And if I can share that passion with my team, I hopefully they see it. And so if I live these 4Ps, right, I'm trying to believe in this philosophy for myself. And I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. Each week in our weekly meeting with our leadership team, I share things that I call like, here's great examples within the industry. I go out and I find things that others are doing in the industry, and I say, look at this great thing they're doing. Look how awesome this is. And it's there to show my passion, but it's also to say, think passionately about what you're doing. Don't just think about, I need to do the checklist and get it done. How can I make this great thing bigger and better than what we're doing? Not that what we're doing is not, but if we can think outside the box, or someone said organic growth ideas to me once. If we can think like that, but think in it how we feel, how we interact, and how passionate we are about it, that will always show to our team members, and that will show to our guests. So I think those are my kind of 4Ps, and I do it all in what I hope is a servant leader approach to everything. So
From the passion standpoint and organic growth and getting bigger and better, I think it represents that there's no ceiling. Is that whatever it's at right now, there is always continuous
yes,
improvement. And if we don't focus on continuous improvement, then that's complacency, and then that leads to decline. So there should always
yeah.
be this passion towards growth. Thank you for sharing the 4Ps: professional, proactive, positive, and the fourth one, passion. I wonder if we can go a little bit deeper into proactive. Can you share some examples of proactive leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. I do what I call a a proactive walk, I guess you could say. I go out with my team, and a lot of leaders may go out and say, you see that, that's incorrect, or that's something we need to work on, or they might point those out. Maybe they don't do them. I walk through and then I ask my team, what do you see? What are you looking at here? Is there something we need to change? And I already know in my head I already know what it is, right? And it's all about how do I get them to see that? How do I get them to think proactively? Most of my team, when I started, they never worked in an amusement park before. So getting someone to see, well, maybe there should be a sign over here that directs the guest to this, or, okay, we've got this, accessible entrance spot, but we don't have a sign there. And then we need a little rope that we can help remove. And then it's these little details, right? So I do what I call proactive Tony walks, and we go out and it's almost like a, give me your vision, folks. Give me your thoughts. What do you see in front of you? And it's interesting because I may point things out in some of our walks, and then I'll see that they've retained that. And now they're thinking about that. But then I'll say, oh, do you see that over there? And they're, oh, wow, I didn't even see that. And so it's all, how can we be proactive in that approach? I mean, I think getting the team to be proactive is the most important thing, because once they see it, it is ingrained in their head. How many times do you go to parks and you see something and you're like, oh, if they would only do this, or if they would only do that? And I'm like, I'm going to get you there so that when you go to parks, I don't think you'll enjoy it as much, because you'll be thinking about the things that you see. And I shouldn't say that. That's really bad, right? I don't want them to do that, but I want them to think proactively. So I think that's a small thing we try to do as a team here. So.
Well, and I think that proactive attitude and the way you're trying to teach people that really also goes into employee engagement, which I know is another one of your big passions. And, I've seen videos of you, and I think I've taken videos of you of, doing things with your team and ways that you've engaged them. So can you talk us a little bit through how you, work to engage your team, and maybe even some tips and tricks for other people who may have a team that they'd like to have a little bit more engaged?
Sure. I, I honestly, it's to me, engagement is just, how do you communicate with your team? How do you connect with your team? And again, it's not just the managers and supervisors who might report directly to me in some way. It's how do you connect with your team? But how do you show them you want them to be there? How do you show them that you want them to succeed? How do you show them a great path to get to where they want to be? So engagement for me, it's always been the word fun. I don't know how else to say. If you're going to have engagement, I think it should be fun. Now there's some difference there. Like when you have a review with someone, you're engaging with them, but it doesn't mean that review has to be so, starch and not reflective or not enjoyable. But how do you have that? Now it's a little bit different engagement, but it's still engagement. But my purpose is, I think if we can focus on fun, if we can always focus on the fun of the engagement side of what we're doing, our team will do the same thing with our guests, as long as we're showing them that. Honestly, I've just said, what's something that I probably would have hated to do when I was young? Because it took working in an amusement park to bring me out of that shell, right? I was probably a shy kid who didn't think much about it. And especially when I started working in games, I mean, wow, you got to be outgoing, right? You got to be, and how do we get that fun in their head? How do we teach the philosophy of fun? And I think for me, engagement is that. How do I create the fun so that I know they will deliver that fun? How can I do that? And for me now, it's all about passing that knowledge onto my team and what they can do, because I can't do every pre-shift. I can't do every, like, I don't, it's, when you become a GM, there's just no time. There's not enough time for the day, right? So how do I do that? And how do I get them to see that belief, that moving forward of fun in the philosophy? Engagement is really important in my mind, for our team and for all teams. And I think that just creating a fun environment is what is really needed to do that. So don't focus on the negative. Please don't ever focus on the negative. If you want to put numbers up that you didn't hit, put them on a wall. Let people walk by and talk about them, but don't focus on that. Don't focus on the negative, I guess.
So with all of that said, and you talked about reviews, and I feel like a performance review can be the most daunting task for the leader and an employee in many instances. How do you bring in engagement and fun into a performance review that leads to providing constructive feedback, but without focusing on the negative?
The way that I've approached feedback or reviews over the years is, and it depends on your company, I would say. Some have very stringent ways to build performance reviews, or they use exact documents or programs to do that. The way that I've done them is I've tried to build a PDP, a personal development plan, versus a review. And the way that I do that is I work with the leaders to design their own review. Like, we work together and we come up with the goals and we come up with how we achieve the goals. And I think that's what makes it engaging, because we don't just meet once a year and talk about that performance and say, oh, you got this 5 and you got this 3 and you got this 5. It's, let's walk along the path together and let's talk about it as we go. And I'm not worried. Maybe we change something as we go, because their role has changed or something in their atmosphere has changed. And how do we adapt to that? So I think the engagement side, to make it fun, is that you got to continue to do it the whole time. You can't just do it once a year. That truly, to me, is not an engaging thing. That is a, let me just tell you how I feel right now. Instead, let's talk about it all the way through. And I wish more companies would do that. I wish more. Maybe it's a time issue, maybe it's a money issue, I don't know. But engage and walk the path together. You don't have to hold hands as you go along, but let's walk the path together and talk about it. And I think for me, a lot of times, after this is 33 years, I think I can share any experience that might relate. And as long as I'm being honest in those experiences about me and my time, and they can see, oh, look, Tony screwed up one time too. Yeah, that happened. And he's forthcoming about it. And he says, that I'll be okay. I'll be okay, even though I screwed up. It's a part of the process. Let's walk together through that process and have a real conversation, not a, you got a 5 out of 3, whatever. So anyways, or 3 out of 5. 5 out of 3, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. We understood what you meant.
Yeah.
But Tony, I feel like with the PDP and your 4 Ps, that your leadership style is really sponsored by the letter P.
Yeah, like I know I need some royalties here.
I think so. But one of the things that struck me as you were talking about that, especially that PDP process, is how, as you're going through it, it's got to be part of that's got to be about building trust. Right. And I think that's got to be a big part of engagement as well, is like you said, hey, if Tony said, I'm going through this right now and it's going to be okay when I get to the other side. Tony said that there's a lot of trust there. There's a lot of respect for what you have to say. Can you talk about, maybe this is an overarching topic, like with your servant leadership style, your 4 Ps, but when you think about a leader in developing trust with their team, like how important is that to be able to engage with them and get across the points that you need to get across as a leader?
It's absolutely critical to do that. I think one of the questions you guys asked me was, throughout my different experiences, what did I maybe take away from that? And I simply said that you have to communicate strong, not aggressive, strong to each other, and you got to build the bonds early. It takes time to build a bond with someone. Sure, I can't do that overnight, right? I mean, I can connect with someone overnight about something, or but I have to build that bond, and a part of, and that's just communication, strong communication. I can't be afraid as a leader to hear that I've done something that upset my employee. And this is what I tell my team: come in here and tell me if I did something that you don't like. Sit in that chair and tell me all about it, and I won't take it as a personal offense. I will take it as my opportunity to learn and grow. I'm always learning, I'm always growing. And if I can take that, that's what I need you to be able to do as well. And together we will build that bond and that strength together. Um, it's definitely something I think about a lot as a leader, is how do I continue? And if I've done something and they come to me and they look at me and they're like, you screwed up, Tony, and I don't like that you did this. Well, okay, I may have made that mistake. Now let's figure out, how do we move together? How do we move forward together on that? I'm not perfect, as I've said. I make mistakes, but I know as a leader, I have to be completely open to what my team is experiencing or feeling, even if it's maybe the story is not 100% there. Maybe it's not all there, but I have to be open to what they're telling me as a leader. So if I shut it off and I just ignore it and I say, well, you're wrong because you work for me, that bond is completely broken. Completely, the trust is gone. And I think you have to show that trust, as you were mentioning, through that bond, but you've got to earn it. You got to earn their trust. I have a title. The title means nothing if I don't earn it, the trust behind it. So,
Tony, we only have a few minutes left here as we start to kind of wind down. But one of the things that we did want to ask you about, and this is a little bit of a pivot here, is you've been a big advocate for people speaking at IAAPA Expo, and curious as far as just what that opportunity has done for you personally.
um, I, I, as I said, I was shy, but I became a trainer. That was like one of my first full-time jobs, was standing in front of thousands of, employees a year. And what I always felt pride in what I did there. Well, I feel so much pride and joy about standing with the industry. Maybe it's in front of the room, right? And saying, look at these great things that I've done maybe with my team, and let me help you to help your team. Um, there's It's just like we were talking about earlier. There's always something you can do better, right? And I think that by us going and speaking and sharing our knowledge, that we're helping others do it, and we're helping them grow in some way, even if it's a small thing. I gave a session a few years ago about the fun and the games department, and the next year, this person from another property came up to me and said, I went back and I completely implemented your entire philosophy, and my team has been exceptional all year, and this has been the best year ever, and our revenues are up and my team is happy and they're not leaving. And she was like, I don't know what to say to you to say thank you for that. And I was like, what you just said was the thanks. That's it. Show me and show the people in the industry how great it can be. And I think that's a reward in itself. So it's just have pride in what you're doing, and really just care about the industry. If we care and we really want to be passionate about it, I think IAAPA helps us do that. And by presenting, we can truly have that experience.
So Tony, there's one thing that I'm curious about, because you started in the industry at 15, and I'm wondering if you've ever thought what you would do if you weren't working in the attractions industry. What would Tony be doing?
I've had that question a couple times in interviews over the years, and I don't know if I ever had a good answer. Um, I would probably be a graphic designer. Um, I don't think my skill is very great, but I love that unique atmosphere of designing something, even if it's a silly sign that someone will read. Like I said, at one time I wanted to be a sign shop foreman, so maybe signs were always in my blood somehow. But other than that, I think I would want to drive a boat, somehow drive a boat, like maybe a little cruise boat that takes people around the bay or something, and just enjoy. I've never driven a boat, so I probably shouldn't drive it until I learn how to drive a boat. But maybe one of those two areas. I'm not, I'm not going to be an Elon Musk. No, no, that's not me. I'm not going to fly to the moon and back. I'm going to do things that I think are creative and fun and unique. So.
Well said.
Yeah.
Tony, this has been such a fascinating conversation. It was so interesting to learn all about you and your career background, as well as everything happening at Old Tucson. And on that note, if people want to learn more about Old Tucson, or if they want to get a hold of you directly, where would you send them?
Well, Old Tucson, just go to oldtucson.com. Follow us on any social media platform. But for me, if you want to look me up on LinkedIn, I don't know my LinkedIn thing, sorry. But if you want to look me up, contact me. Or I will can be found here at the park, and anyone can contact me in the industry, and I'd love to have a conversation with them. So.
Awesome. Well, Tony, thank you so much for your time in this interview and this conversation. It's been really great to catch up. And for everybody out there who is watching and listening, just remember, we are all attraction pros.